Saturn has 292 moons. Most are frozen rocks drifting silently through darkness. But one of them hides a secret so impossible that scientists spent decades refusing to believe it. Its name is Mimas. At first glance, Mimas looks dead, scarred, ancient, a tiny moon shattered by violence long ago. One colossal crater dominates its surface so perfectly that it resembles the Death Star from Star Wars. For over 40 years, astronomers believed that crater told the whole story. A fossil from a violent past, frozen solid forever. But in 2024, everything changed. Beneath that battered shell, scientists discovered evidence of something that should not exist there at all. A hidden global ocean, liquid water, on a moon everyone thought was completely frozen. That discovery transformed Mimas overnight from a forgotten icy rock into one of the most important worlds in the solar system. Because wherever liquid water exists, one terrifying question follows. Could life survive there too? The deeper scientists looked, the stranger Mimas became. Its orbit was unstable. Its surface temperatures made no sense. Even Saturn's rings may have been shaped by it. And now, researchers believe we may be witnessing a world awakening in real time. The Death Star moon. Saturn has 292 moons, but only one looks like it was designed by science fiction itself. Its name is Mimas. Small, frozen, and scarred by unimaginable violence, Mimas became famous because of a single feature, a gigantic crater that makes the moon resemble the Death Star from Star Wars. The resemblance is so perfect that when NASA's Voyager spacecraft first photographed it in 1980, scientists and the public alike were stunned. The crater is called Herschel, and it is absolutely monstrous. Mimas itself is only about 400 kilometers wide, yet Herschel stretches roughly 130 kilometers across the surface. That means the crater covers nearly 1/3 of the entire moon. Relative to Earth, it would be like a crater larger than Australia carved directly into our planet. Its walls rise nearly 5 kilometers high. At the center stands a massive mountain peak towering even higher. The impact that created it was so catastrophic that scientists believe Mimas came within moments of total destruction. If the asteroid had been slightly larger, if it had struck slightly faster, Mimas may have shattered completely. Instead, the moon barely survived. The collision sent shockwaves through its interior powerful enough to crack the opposite side of the moon. Even today, deep fractures and canyon-like scars remain frozen into the crust, permanent reminders of one of the most violent impacts in the Saturn system. And for decades, astronomers believed this ancient scar told them everything they needed to know about Mimas. It was dead, a frozen relic from the early solar system. Unlike Saturn's neighboring moon Enceladus, which sprays gigantic geysers of water into space, Mimas appeared silent and inactive. No volcanic activity, no shifting surface, no visible signs of heat. Just ancient craters layered on top of even older craters. In planetary science, appearances matter. Large impact craters slowly soften over time if the surface beneath them is warm or flexible. Heat causes ice to flow and relax, gradually erasing sharp features. But Herschel crater remained almost perfectly preserved for billions of years. That preservation convinced scientists that Mimas had an extremely thick, rigid ice shell. A moon this cold and solid should have no internal activity whatsoever. It seemed like the perfect cosmic fossil. But the deeper scientists looked, the stranger Mimas became. Because beneath its frozen appearance, something wasn't behaving correctly. Tiny irregularities in the moon's motion hinted that its interior might not be entirely solid after all. Subtle temperature anomalies appeared across its surface that researchers struggled to explain. Even Saturn's famous rings seemed connected to Mimas in unexpected ways. Still, nobody seriously believed the moon could contain liquid water. It simply didn't make sense. Mimas was too small, too cold, too ancient. Everything about it screamed, dead world. Yet hidden beneath that battered crust, a secret was waiting. One capable of completely rewriting what scientists thought they understood about icy moons. Because the Death Star moon was hiding something impossible. An ocean, and not just a tiny pocket of meltwater buried underground. A global ocean. Liquid water sloshing beneath an ancient frozen shell in total darkness, concealed for billions of years beneath one of the most recognizable surfaces in the solar system. The discovery would transform Mimas overnight from a forgotten moon into one of the most important worlds in the search for extraterrestrial life. But first, scientists had to solve a mystery that looked almost ridiculous. A giant Pac-Man shape glowing across the moon's surface. The Pac-Man mystery. In 2010, NASA's Cassini spacecraft turned its infrared across one hemisphere of Mimas. Temperatures formed a massive V-shaped pattern that looked almost exactly like the famous arcade character. Inside the mouth, temperatures were dramatically colder than the surrounding terrain. It was one of the strangest thermal maps ever seen in the solar system. Even stranger, the pattern was completely invisible in ordinary light. Photographs showed nothing unusual at all. No color differences, no obvious surface markings. Just endless gray ice and ancient craters. Yet in infrared, the giant Pac-Man shape appeared unmistakably clear. Scientists were stunned. Some researchers jokingly claimed Mimas really was the Death Star and that Darth Vader had somehow painted over the surface to fool visible light cameras. But the real explanation turned out to be almost as strange. Mimas orbits deep inside Saturn's powerful radiation belts. High-energy electrons trapped by Saturn's magnetic field constantly slam into the moon's leading hemisphere at enormous speeds. Over time, those particles physically alter the ice. The bombardment compresses loose snow-like material into dense crystalline ice through a process called sintering. That hardened ice behaves very differently from softer surface material. Dense ice absorbs heat slowly. Loose powder heats rapidly. This created the bizarre thermal pattern Cassini detected. The regions constantly blasted by radiation stayed colder during the day because heat traveled beneath the surface instead of remaining on top. Meanwhile, untouched regions warmed quickly under sunlight, creating the sharp Pac-Man contrast. Mystery solved. But ironically, the solution reinforced the belief that Mimas was geologically dead. The strange temperatures weren't caused by hidden internal heat. They were simply surface effects created by Saturn's radiation environment. Or so scientists believed. At the same time, another mystery involving Mimas was unfolding far beyond the moon itself, inside Saturn's magnificent rings. If you've ever seen Saturn through a telescope, you've probably noticed the dark gap slicing through its rings. This enormous region is called the Cassini division, and for centuries astronomers wondered what created it. The answer turned out to be Mimas. Every time the moon completes an orbit around Saturn, its gravity tugs on particles inside the rings. Those repeated gravitational pulls act like perfectly timed pushes on a swing, gradually disrupting the ring particles until they're scattered away. Over millions of years, Mimas effectively carved out the giant gap. But newer research suggested something even stranger. Scientists began suspecting that Mimas itself had migrated inward through Saturn's system long ago, acting almost like a snowplow as it moved. Its gravitational resonance may have slowly pushed ring material aside, widening the Cassini division over millions of years. That meant Mimas wasn't static. Its orbit was changing. And that detail would become incredibly important, because the moon's strange orbital behavior eventually revealed the truth hidden beneath its crust. A truth scientists had spent decades dismissing as impossible. Mimas was not frozen solid. Something beneath the surface was moving, and the clue that exposed it came from a tiny wobble no one could initially explain. The Mimas paradox. To understand why the discovery on Mimas shocked scientists so deeply, you first need to understand Enceladus. Enceladus is another moon orbiting Saturn. It's roughly similar in size to Mimas, made mostly of ice, located nearby in the Saturn system. But unlike Mimas, Enceladus is alive. Massive cracks near its south pole blast towering geysers of water vapor hundreds of kilometers into space. Beneath its frozen crust lies a warm global ocean filled with salts, organic compounds, and possibly hydrothermal vents. Many scientists consider Enceladus one of the best places in the solar system to search for alien life. And according to physics, Mimas should have looked exactly like it, maybe even more active. That's because Mimas experiences stronger tidal heating. As Saturn's gravity stretches and squeezes the moon during its orbit, friction builds inside the interior. That friction creates heat. The closer a moon is to Saturn and the more elliptical its orbit becomes, the stronger the heating effect grows. Mimas is closer to Saturn than Enceladus. Its orbit is also more eccentric. Mathematically, Mimas should generate even more internal heat. Yet reality showed the exact opposite. Enceladus erupted with geysers while Mimas looked like a frozen rock. Scientists called this contradiction the Mimas paradox. For years, researchers believed they understood the answer. They assumed Mimas had frozen solid early in its history. Once ice becomes completely rigid, it stops flexing effectively. Without flexing, tidal heating weakens dramatically. The moon essentially becomes locked in permanent deep freeze. Simple. Except the data refused to cooperate. In 2014, astronomers studying Mimas noticed something deeply strange about its rotation. As the moon orbited Saturn, it exhibited an unusually large wobble known as libration. The wobble was almost twice as large as expected. That shouldn't have been possible for a completely solid moon. Researchers proposed two explanations. The first idea suggested Mimas possessed a bizarre elongated core shaped almost like a rugby ball. An uneven interior could potentially create the abnormal motion. The second explanation was far more shocking. Maybe the outer shell wasn't fully attached to the core. Maybe it was floating on liquid water. Most scientists rejected that possibility immediately. An ocean beneath Mimas sounded absurd. The surface still contained enormous ancient structures like Herschel crater. If liquid water existed underneath, the crust should have softened and collapsed long ago. The evidence simply didn't fit. But then came the breakthrough. In 2024, scientists analyzed 13 years of Cassini spacecraft data to study the subtle movement of Mimas's orbit around Saturn. Over time, the moon's orbital path slowly rotates in a process known as precession. The speed of that rotation depends heavily on the moon's internal structure. When researchers ran the calculations, the rugby ball theory completely failed. Could not explain the observed motion. Only one model matched reality perfectly. Mimas contained a global subsurface ocean beneath its icy crust. The discovery stunned planetary science. But the surprises weren't over yet, because this hidden ocean appeared to be incredibly young. Researchers estimated it may have formed only a few million years ago, practically yesterday in cosmic terms. That explained why the surface still looked ancient and heavily cratered. The heat from the ocean simply hadn't had enough time to reshape the outer crust. Mimas wasn't an old ocean world. It was a newborn one. And that realization changed everything scientists thought they understood about icy moons. Because if Mimas could suddenly awaken after billions of years frozen solid, how many other dead worlds across the solar system might secretly contain oceans too? a world awakening. The discovery of an ocean beneath Mimas solved one mystery, but it created an even bigger one. Where did the ocean come from? Scientists now believe the answer lies in orbital chaos. Sometime within the last few million years, Mimas likely entered a gravitational resonance with another Saturnian moon, possibly Tethys or Dione. Their combined gravitational interactions gradually stretched Mimas's orbit into a more extreme ellipse. That change was catastrophic for the moon's interior. As Mimas moved closer to Saturn and then farther away repeatedly, tidal forces intensified dramatically. The constant stretching and squeezing generated enormous internal friction deep inside the frozen crust. Eventually, the ice began to melt, slowly at first, then globally. A hidden ocean formed beneath the surface. And according to current models, we may be witnessing this transformation at the exact moment it's happening. Right now, Mimas appears trapped between two states. Its surface still looks ancient and dead, but underneath, the moon may already be becoming active. Scientists believe the ocean lies beneath roughly 20 to 30 kilometers of ice. Over time, heat from below will continue weakening that shell. Cracks may eventually spread across the surface. The crust could fracture apart under internal pressure. And one day, Mimas may erupt, just like Enceladus. Gigantic geysers of water vapor could burst through the ice and spray into space above Saturn's rings. What now appears silent and frozen may eventually become one of the most geologically active moons in the solar system. But there's a catch. This ocean may only exist temporarily. As liquid water sloshes beneath the crust, it gradually steals energy from the moon's orbit. That process slowly circularizes Mimas's path around Saturn, reducing tidal heating over time. Eventually, the heat source will fade. When that happens, the ocean will begin freezing again. And paradoxically, freezing could become even more destructive than melting. Water expands as it turns into ice. That expansion will push outward against the crust with enormous force, potentially shattering the surface and creating gigantic canyons across the moon. Future Mimas may look completely different from the one we see today. What makes this discovery so extraordinary is the timing. Humanity may exist during a tiny cosmic window when Mimas briefly possesses a hidden ocean before freezing solid once more. Millions of years from now, the moon could appear dead again, hiding all evidence that liquid water ever existed there at all. And naturally, one enormous question remains. Could life survive inside that ocean? Scientists honestly don't know. The ocean may be too young, too temporary, too energy-starved. But on Earth, life appeared surprisingly quickly once conditions became suitable. Even a few million years may potentially be enough for simple microbial ecosystems to emerge under the right circumstances. That possibility changes how scientists think about the entire solar system, because Mimas teaches us something profound. Worlds that appear dead may not actually be dead. Ancient frozen crusts can hide active interiors. Tiny moons can contain oceans. Places once dismissed as lifeless may secretly possess the ingredients required for habitability. The Death Star moon turned out not to be a symbol of destruction, but a reminder that the universe is stranger than we ever imagined. And somewhere beneath that ancient cratered shell, in total darkness beneath Saturn's rings, an ocean quietly waits. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the cosmos, don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, keep looking up.